All right, we are going to kill that early here. It's not even early. The music was late. I'm late. And some of these business calls go and go and go, and like you try to get off of them as fast as possible, but that's the way it is. All right, you're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos if you like them and share them far and wide. The link to the public polling project is in the description below. You share and support what you want. We got a couple options up there right now. Like I did say, we kind of owe a national poll. So that's something we're going to have to do. I just didn't want to do it with the political violence survey. And there's a couple of reasons why. One is I wanted to keep that separate, even though we're already asking certain political questions. It has to stay separate. It just does. It was, first of all, it's rather large. Secondly, the way we're conducting the political violence study, it's not a poll. The way that we're conducting that is actually more like a focus group than a poll. All right. So you'll understand why here. That is in a second. All right. But that's all there below. So New Jersey, we do have some time for, which is what I want to talk about actually now. New Jersey, New York mayoral race, and the Virginia gubernatorial election. This is now the fourth person that I trust has come out with a poll that I know, and we review each other's work. We know what we're seeing. We talk to each other about this. Virginia's getting tight. It is, and it is because of the Jay Jones issue and how Democrats have handled it. Even the gubernatorial election is getting tighter. All right, and while I would still say Spanberger is a favorite, this race could get away from her. And that's the first time I've been willing to say that for a while, because Abigail has been very good at winning what appeared to be very close races in Virginia 7 and running away with it in the end. And I hate to say this for people who live in Virginia and don't want to hear it. Abigail Spanberger is like the very typical Virginian woman in that area of the state. She's a former spook. And for those who don't know, she worked for CIA. She was involved, like Alyssa Slotkin, in several of the Iraq operations dealing with Iraq. And by the way, just to have that job in that area of the state and then this, parts of this country is in itself a qualification. When in fact, most of the task force that she worked with or was working adjacent with were absolutely utter disasters, policy-wise. Utter failures and disasters. Ditto Alyssa Slotkin, but it doesn't matter. That's not how these people view it. So she still is very tough to beat, but it is close, without a doubt. The New Jersey, which we don't have, obviously, any debates that we're going to go over, but in New Jersey, it's worth pointing out and just touching on, because I have very little time to go through all of this stuff before Viva comes on and talk about the Bolton indictment. Bottom line is, New Jersey, there's only one poll that's showing that the race is not tightening and tightening quickly, and that is Fairleigh Dickinson University. Fairleigh Dickinson is not a good pollster. Fairleigh Dickinson is one of those pollsters like Mecklenburg College and Franklin and Marshall. They have this credibility out of status and their names, and it's like who you know, not what you know. And if we go through the New Jersey governor polls, which you can see right here from 2021, there are two pollsters up here right now that polled the race relatively close and are showing very tight races. That, of course, is Emerson and Trafalgar. One is tied. I believe Trafalgar is only something like a 1 point race. I know what Robert's work. Believe me, we are obviously always talking between Matt, myself, Robert, Mark, all of us who are founding members of the National Association of Independent Pollsters. We all talk to each other. That race is tight. Okay. So it's either we're all wrong, or Fox News now is even wrong, who's showing a tightening race, or Fairleigh Dickinson, who is a horrible pollster. Right? They're off by more than 6 points in 2021. They just happen to be right out of nowhere, right? Which is more likely? That Fairleigh Dickinson is a bad pollster and will continue to poll this way to the left. And it's always, with Fairleigh Dickinson, is always too Democratic. It's like one of those. Rutgers Eagleton, another situation. Not a good pollster. Monmouth is out of the picture, and the race that they failed to call in their own state took out of the picture. It was the beginning of the end for Patrick Murray. So obviously, the more likely scenario is that this is a race. Again, that's why when it comes to our polling, I want to wait until in-person early voting. That's why I'm saying we have some time. I think New Jersey is somewhere in the ballpark of 13% funded or something like that for the public polling project. I want to wait until we get some in-person early voting because I want to have a robust vote method question, which is, how did you vote? If you're going to vote, you're going to vote on election day. If you haven't voted yet, if you did vote already, are you voting by mail? Are you planning to vote still either by mail or in person? Or did you already vote by in person? We're going to do all of that. It's going to be a lot more robust, much more like our work in 2024. And I will know if we're seeing a tight race. It's not simply because Jack Citarelli is winning independents by such a large margin that, it makes the numbers on its face look close. By vote method, you can tell whether or not this will, in fact, really be close. All right. So there we have it. And that's why I'm going to wait to do that. That doesn't mean wait to fund it. If you want to see us poll New Jersey, then absolutely, by all means, go to the public polling project and do that. All right. But for now, I'm going to start with the New York mayoral race. I'm telling you, this race is over. Barnes and I may have to revisit both Virginia, which was the attorney general race and the gubernatorial election. I think our predictions on that stand. Spanberger is not going to win by 14 points at this rate. No way. But as far as whether Mamdani will get a majority or not, I think this thing is starting to run away from anti-Mamdani people, right? They have these fantasies. They're spreading all of these polls around that I don't buy a single word of. They're funded for campaigns or for groups. And the fact of the matter is, Mamdani did what he had to do in this debate. He did. He had to come across as reasonable, and he had to come across not as a fanatic, right? Which what I think his critics are trying to get people to understand. The problem is, and I said this, there are two things that have to happen for Mamdani to get to 50 or plus, and it does look like it's going to happen. New York's mayoral races are notoriously very low turnout races. You need these non-white voters in some of the boroughs, like the Bronx, okay, to just not vote. And that appears to be what is happening. Cuomo will do better with areas like that. Mamdani's going to win the upscale white liberal, and he's going to win the part of the non-white vote, which is very clearly the more Asian-centered vote. And by Asian, I mean Arab Asian specifically. He has now become this thing for these white liberals, this like a symbol vote. And that was the nightmare for Cuomo. And he hit Cuomo from both sides. This was the flaw with the idea that you know who you are, approached me with that you wanted me to run a poll, all right, and hopefully Cuomo would be doing better, which I don't bull anybody, so obviously I'm not the right guy to ask to do something like this. But hoping that Cuomo did better and actually seeing whether or not Trump's endorsement of Cuomo would help him in the mayoral race. The key was actually much more like what Troy and others were trying to thought was the smarter way, which was to get that endorsement for Adams. I'm sorry, it's just true. And the Republican, nice guy, super nice guy. It just isn't their moment to pull off a miracle, which can happen. I'm old enough to remember Dinkins going down to Giuliani. I'm old enough to remember very liberal women that I knew as a young boy voting for Giuliani because of that. That's not this moment, guys. I hate to tell you. It's just not. So if you were going to try to pull something, it had to be with Adams, not Cuomo. And I'm going to show you the clip why that never would have worked. Mamdani buried Cuomo with this. I got to tell you, he just outclassed. He's good. So you better wake up and realize that not everyone thinks like you. No, but he's a fanatic. Oh, he's crazy. I'm watching, what's his name? Bill Donor. wealthy Republican donor. It was in the news when it came to the Turning Point stuff. Oh, I can't remember. Ackerman. And he's like, couple of thoughts. Mamdani's crazy. Okay, you think Mamdani's crazy. That way of arguing against these kind of fanatics are going to get you these fanatics elected. That's it. Because people don't think like you. You are actually the one in a bubble. It's New York City. You can keep up with that shit all you want. And I'm telling you, you can bow to President AOC. I'm telling you, though, that's how stupid that kind of commentary is. It's not going to work, Laura. It's not going to work. Those people don't think what Mamdani stands for is a threat like you think it is. Now, give it 4 years, maybe that'll change, but it's not like that now. And Republicans, and especially wealthy Republican donors, they have this big problem with thinking everybody else sees the world like they do. And that's a human problem for sure. But I'm telling you, Republican donors, they have this problem even when it comes to their own voters. It's why they could never understand why Donald Trump was so popular. You live in another world. It's you, honey, not them. All right? Anyway, here's the clip. This race is over. Sorry.
Donnie, want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
Mr. Mamdani.
Race over. Race over. Over. Bannon's right, man. Me and Bannon were talking, like, all of these Wall Street guys, they just sat back, like, they'll vote for a Democrat in a heartbeat. And you know, they've been funding Democrats. Democrats are actually the party of Wall Street now, not Republicans. It's in the numbers. Go to Open Secrets, go to the FEC. I don't know how lazy you are, and go type in security industry. And you're going to see insurance and securities. You're going to see that Wall Street funds Democrats now. In any given election, at the very least 3-1, at the most, or more than 6-1. This is their fault. They want to be bougie and cool and, yeah, all right, you know, whatever. It's a hip thing to do. You don't vote for a Republican or support a Republican in these times unless you're, you know, a xenophobe, or unless you're this, unless you're that, unless you're backward, unless you don't like free trade and blah, 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 blah. But you don't like this. Well, guess what, dummies? It was always going to be this. So now the government you elect is the government you deserve. Thomas Jefferson, eat it. That's it. It's over. I hate to tell you, you're not making a comeback. Stop passing around your memos. It's too late. It's too late. The real interesting fire, because I'm telling you, that's it. That's all I have to say about this. I'm sorry. I'm not going to entertain it any more than that. The real interesting moment of the night, of course, was Virginia. Because how Democrats have handled this is now threatening to cost Democrats up and down the ballot in races that they were widely expected and should have easily won, rather easily won. Folks, just to give you a little bit of a historical primer, Virginia, when it came down to Youngkin, and we were one of only 2 polls, me and Robert Cahaley, showing that Youngkin was either, when they were all still showing McAuliffe up by 7, this and that, we were showing Youngkin tied, if not down 1 or 2 points. And then we gave Youngkin the lead first. He was in the lead. And when people were giving us crap over it, we were trying to give them a little bit of a historical primer on elections in the state of Virginia. They are notorious for giving the out of power party right after a presidential election the governorship. When a Republican wins, when George Bush wins the presidency, a Democrat wins the governorship. When Barack Obama wins the presidency, a Republican wins the governorship. Bob McDonnell stomped that year. It was 19 points or something. It's ridiculous. He won Fairfax, guys. Fairfax. And by the time we got to And by the way, Trump won, so did McAuliffe, right? Or no, it was Ralph Northam. Yeah. There's only one term for governors in Virginia that you can actually go back and run again like McAuliffe did, but you cannot run for consecutive terms. You are termed out after one term in Virginia. And Youngkin now, who won after Joe Biden was elected, is terming out. And that's why we have this election. Just so you guys, anybody didn't know that. That's how it goes. But this has been going on for a long time in Virginia. They are notorious for wanting to give the other party the governorship. All right. And real quick before we bring on Viva, I got to blast through this because we got to get to this thing with Bolt. This was Jay Jones's apology. Okay. First.
Now, tonight, you're going to hear two very different visions for the future of this Commonwealth. And you're also going to hear from my opponent about text messages that I sent that I deeply, deeply regret. Let me be very clear. I am ashamed. I am embarrassed. And I'm sorry.
I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. And I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed. Okay. It's not the right choice of words. And we all know how his apology went to begin with, which was not an apology. He doubled down when he was called out on it in the text chain. And I'll let Mayoris explain it. He did it much better, honestly. And just let me know if Viva's got like a hard out he's got to do here, right? I'll speed through. We can leap through. What is it? What is it? Do it again. Let me put it in the comment section. Let me look. Yeah. Okay. I can see him making hand signals, but I don't know what he's 10 10:53. 10 to 2. Yeah. I don't know. All right. Just shoot me a text or something, brother. Give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. All right. And then Mayoris comes back and just thumps him. And that's the clip I'm going to run. And then we'll bring on Dave and we'll come back to this at the end because we're going to have to talk about how it impacts the rest of the races. This is what Mayoris did in his opening. It was brutal. And I'm not ready to say this race is over, but Jay Jones, Britt Hume had made the comment after Jones's opening statement, which was an apology. He made the comment, this is probably good for most people. I don't know about that, Britt. You're not looking at the polling. Maybe most people in Northern Virginia, where it's going to go blue anyway, they would vote for, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it. They would vote for Hitler if he had a D after his name. All right. Bottom line. Oh no, he said that. Yep, I did. But for those people who truly are persuadable, I'm thinking about suburbs of like Chesterfield, right? I don't think you can survive how Mayoris came back. I just
Jones
don't.
wants to fight the fights in Washington. He should run for Congress, but he's running for the wrong office. He's asking you to hire him to be the top prosecutor. And I have to make this observation. He keeps saying that he is sorry. Jay, if you're really sorry, you wouldn't be running. If you really understood the ramifications of what you said about an innocent mom and her children, you know Todd Gilbert. You've served with him. Jennifer would come to the General Assembly. She would bring her children. We would see them run in the hallways. They were 2 and 5 years old at the time. This wasn't a hypothetical. This wasn't some figure that you know from far away. You actually know Todd. This is a flesh and blood, real husband. Jennifer is a real mom. These are real kids. How in the world could you ever show compassion and comfort a grieving mother that has ever lost a child to violence? Because Virginians, there is no cry like the cry of a mother that has lost her child. A prosecutor knows this because they've stood in that courtroom. Jay Jones has never understood this because he's not a prosecutor. He's a politician trying to save his career.
Oh my God. Bodied. Yeah, right? I just don't know how you survive that. I don't. Even if Mayoris is the only Republican who wins statewide in this election, I really think that he will be. All right. This is now the 4th or 5th straight poll since this came out that showed Mayoris ahead of Jay Jones. He was down. But the only issue now, to me, in my mind, is not whether Mayoris is going to win. It's whether or not Jay Jones is going to bring down other Democrats with him. And that's where that's it. I mean, Spanberger has done such a horrible job dealing with this whole the fallout from all of this. that you're going to even start to see Washington Post polls start tightening this up some. All right. They'll go to where they think they can go to be safe, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably Spanberger +6 after a 12. And then it will end up close. That's the trajectory we're on right now. All right. With that in mind, let's go back. We can come back to the rest of this because it's not irrelevant, but it is different. I have some other clips I want to show, but not for the purpose of talking about like whether or not this one was he got him here, he got him there. We know it was a dominant performance by Mayoris. The question is, do enough Republicans go for the jugular the way that Mayoris went for the jugular, and then what they could learn from her, and that is separate than the concept of whether or not he changed any minds. All right. I think the minds were changing and he just solidified it. Republicans would be smart to use this more effectively, to echo him more effectively. Cause he did it with both, grace and this like graceful and decency, but with an effectiveness, and it was aggressive and it was effective, but we'll come back to that in a second. All right. I got to bring on the one and the only Viva here. Because this is I wake up and I look at your post, I'm telling you, and I'm like, this can't be that bad. And then I read it and I'm thinking to myself, your analysis was so on. I got to get you on to say this and repeat this. Go ahead. First of all,
my pleasure. I'm going live at 3:00 and I got to get my stuff lined up before I do.
Yeah.
But no, first of all, I can't say no to you and I can't say no on this. Can you imagine, like, how many times does Barnes and we have to say, like, you can be dumb and you can be a criminal. Just don't be a dumb criminal.
Dumb criminal.
I should have included the section of that indictment where he says, shush, or they say shush, like, can't talk about that. Can't talk about what he's doing, but he puts it in writing, which I suspected no one was ever going to get. Bolton is a dumb criminal and a hypocrite at that. Just one thing on Jay Jones, by the way. You love that apology. He's sorry. He's embarrassed. He's humiliated. Just not enough to back out of the race. Scoundrels.
Unbelievable. And that goes to, it's so telling that, it's so telling. I mean, if you really were sorry and you really were embarrassed, and Mayoris pointed this out, you wouldn't still be in the race. You would say, you know what? There's no way I could carry out my duties of this office.
Attorney General.
He's the top cop of the state.
So he'll say, all right, I didn't mean it literally. It sounded like you meant it literally. You meant it spiritually. How on earth is anyone ever anywhere going to expect you to apply the law evenly to your constituents, irrespective of political ideology? You can't. Sometimes the only way they change policy is when they hurt. So lock them up and then maybe they'll change policy. It's a scoundrel bum. What's the greatest thing is what's her face there? Spanberger comes out and says, well, I refusing to disavow her endorsement. It's in the hands of the voters. Well, if they elect him, then do we then conclude that anybody who elects him supports what he said? Because that is the only thing you can draw from it. And nuts.
On that note, I think that we're going to have to come to grips with something, and I'm going to share this with you too, obviously, when we're done. I think we're going to have to come to grips with something horrible, dark, in which I think we all suspected or kind of knew about before Charlie's assassination. I don't know how they're going to refute this stuff or ignore it, but I think what's becoming surprising to me is that when I went into doing this, I thought we were going to basically see the new manifestation of the kind of the mass shooter MO, these like wayward souls, especially young men. That's not it, Viva. That's not it. It's not. I was wrong. It's more than that. It's professional class. These people, by the way, they run for office. There's Jay Jones right there. They'll run for office. They'll be lawyers, doctors, bankers. This is crazy. So people who could take an oath to do no harm, who still want to see harm done to another human being because they disagree with them. There's something really dark going on in our country. And we have to, voters are going to have to start to get a little bit more serious about their vote. because you may be electing somebody who that he wasn't joking. You know he wasn't. And a lot of the focus, rightfully so, has been on his political opponents and the kids. But here is someone running for the office of the top cop in the state who also said that police should die because that's how change is affected. So when cops are killed, then change happens. Like,
how the hell does anybody with an iota of dignity continue in the race after that? And not just that, for their own, forget their own self-preservation. If he cared about the party, he wouldn't be that liability to Spamberger, who's now in a tough place. Well, I say tough. She's not in a tough place. All she had to do was disavow her endorsement of Jay Jones and say, hell no. But they come up with their Politico distraction piece about those young Republicans on a private text thread acting like fools, which is wrong. But we're on different levels of wrongness here, and the attempt to equate the two is like, yeah, sure, some Republican, whatever they were, activists joking around like idiots in a text thread, and the AG basically wishing to kill cops, kill adversaries, kill children, because that's how you make political progress. That's called terrorism. And Jay Jones is a terrorist.
Wow. Nobody said that yet, but that's so true. That is to use violence in order to affect political change. What he is describing in his tag, that's terrorism.
No,
he's a freaking terrorist.
When their children die, they'll change political perspectives. All right, thanks. You know who else says that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let's get on this Bolton thing. So first of all, this is what you said, and I'm going to show people what you said, because then I went and read the highlights. And I guess we're all finding out now that individual 1 and 2 is his wife and daughter.
CBS News reported it. Like I felt guilty suggesting it because they say they're related, but if CBS News, they can't identify a woman from a man when it comes to the Kavanaugh assassin, but they can identify a mother and a daughter. That's the irony. Yeah, apparently it's his wife and daughter.
Actually, before I show the indictment, we got to because we never skip a chance to show how ridiculous the media is. Okay, plural media, really. This was 7 days ago. Ari Melber on MSNBC. Okay, here we go. 7 days ago.
Building apparently a case that is against a Trump perceived enemy and yet one who worked for President Trump, longtime neoconservative foreign policy voice John Bolton. Now the suggestion is they are close to getting where the Trump DOJ officials want, and they're trying to cook up this case to get a grand jury indictment, and that could come as soon as next week.
All right, that's all we needed to hear. Cook up, right? And then you have, what's her name? I actually wrote her name here so I wouldn't forget. Where is, here we go. Nicole Wallace, all right, went on, said that Bolton is on Trump's enemies list and that he's persecuting his political enemies. That was right after Ari did that little monologue he did, phrasing it as cooking up a case again. So 7 days ago, it was just Trump pursuing his political vendettas, and that poor John Bolton, poor Jim Comey, right? Because the indictment was imminent of Bolton at that time. We didn't know how soon it was coming, but they knew it was coming. And now, boy, today they did a flip-flop. Here's 6 seconds of deliciousness.
It doesn't look good for him. There's no way to slice it. The details of this indictment do not look good. It doesn't.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I almost clicked it again and replayed it.
I've got so many clips of Bolton for my show lined up where I'm only going to play 3 of them, where he talks about the importance of classified information, where he suggested the death penalty for Chelsea Manning and that Julian Assange got what he deserved. Yeah. I don't know if it's not believing in a capital G God or not being sufficiently superstitious to imagine that there might be a God, that you live with a certain bit of moral, intellectual consistency. This man is going to live by his own words. I'm not going to say the other half of that because I don't want people misconstruing it as a threat. He's going to live by his own words and go to jail by his own words. And if he doesn't go to jail, it's only because they're going to find a Maryland juror, a runaway juror, John Cusack lover, who's going to say, it's political retribution for actual criminality. He's dead to rights in this. You read.
Yeah, let's put this up. Yeah, let's put this up.
It was when I heard yesterday, because I don't remember where I was yesterday. And it's like, oh, it's a long indictment. It's like, all right, so it's typically more is fluff. Half of it are the charges. So you go through half of it. It's the 8 charges of 9 charges of retention of classified information, and 8 charges of communicating classified information. The story that this indictment tells, this is exponentially better than not the Letitia James, than the James Comey. James Comey was a 2-paragrapher. I could see how people say it's a little weak. If they had more, they would have put it in, yada, yada. This tells the story of a man who quite literally was drafting his soon-to-be sold book for $1 million while he's in office. And he's sitting there figuring out how to transcribe into diary format the classified information to which he has access while he's in office. And he finds individual 1 and 2 that he sends diary-like entries to regularly, acknowledging it's classified, acknowledging it comes in secure settings, and gives that to them so that the day after he's kicked out of the Trump administration, he goes off and hawks his book for $1 million, which contains a lot of classified info. Dead to rights.
Unbelievable. I mean, here's count 1, 2. I mean, guys, I don't know if you went through the counts, but listen to count 1. And this is from September 23rd, 2018. Document A reveals intelligence about future attack by an adversarial group in another country. And then, by the way, if you go through the indictment, you'll see that Iran actually got some of these documents. He then does alert authorities that he was hacked, but fails to convey the information that they got was classified information. Count 2 reveals liaison partners sharing sensitive information with the U.S. intelligence community. Document C reveals intelligence that a foreign adversary was planning a missile launch in the future, a covert action in a foreign country that is related to sensitive intergovernmental actions and sensitive sources and methods used to collect human intelligence. All right. And here's what's scary about that, folks. That's intelligence speak for he put someone's life at risk. Okay. He could have gotten somebody killed. That is what that means for those of you who don't speak this language. So, and then I felt like, because after reading what you wrote, I felt like this guy really thought because you're anti-Trump, you can do whatever the hell you want, right?
And you could for the longest time until Trump got reelected, and then brings in his own.
Right.
And now I suspect his defense is going to say, I mean, he might say, and it might be the case, that when he told them he got hacked by the IRGC, they knew, they had access. I presume they had access to his email and they could see what he sent. But the indictment alleges that he failed to disclose that in the email account that they hacked, he had sent this classified information to person 1 and person 2. Before shopping it to what was it, Simon and Schuster? I forget. I think that's the publishers. But it's just it's comedically stupid. He's got a SCIF set up in his home, and then they eliminate that SCIF authorization after he's booted out of the Trump admin. But he goes on to retain, communicate classified information, and then write a tell-all book where even after the NSC says no, this has a lot of classified information in it, which I guess he took out. So the crime is not that he published it in the book, but that he obtained, communicated, and retained when he shouldn't have, and actually did put it in the book, but for the NSC reviewing it and kicking it out, he would have otherwise disclosed that to the world.
I remember, I think it was 2 weeks ago when we started to get some information on this was going to happen. I did speak to somebody who told me this will not be like a trumped up indictment. This is serious. And now that we have a chance, and just to in the interest of fairness and consistency, yes, guys, an indictment is one side of the story, and it's not, indictment itself is not evidence, but obviously the government has the goods on this. Like, obviously, right? Is there any way he weasels out of this?
No, I mean, the way he got a Democrat judge, I forget who the judge is, so they can maybe go judicial activist by way of exclusion of evidence if they want to, or maybe by foreclosure of arguments for the prosecution. And we've seen what they did with Alex Jones, Navarro, Bannon, Giuliani, Mike Lindell. We've seen what they can do. E. Jean Carroll. These judges are when they're activists, they can include evidence that shouldn't be included or exclude evidence that should be included. And you can get just a jury nullification. I mean, you've got to get a unanimous verdict. It's in Maryland. And we saw what happened with Sussman, Michael Sussman.
Michael Sussman is what I was going to bring up.
The total jury nullification of a guy who was dead to rights. And who else did we have? And then you see the opposite. When they want to convict, they'll convict anybody they want. So, I mean, that's as much of his out as he's going to get. judicial nullification or jury nullification, and we'll see. But holy heck, it's also just specifically in contrast to statements that Bolton has made in the past. He knew, like Letitia James, he knew exactly what he was doing because of what he accused Trump of having done, failing to acknowledge that Trump is the president and can declassify whatever the hell he wants. And Mike Bolton can't. So it's, Letitia comes out and details Trump's mortgage fraud, which he didn't commit, while she's doing it herself, and she knew damn well how to do it. Mike Bolton, or not Mike Bolton, John Bolton, knew damn well what he was doing. And it's so stupid. He put it in writing. Can't talk about that. So let's put one writing.
Yeah. I mean, that part is so damning. And you ever notice that? I mean, I always told people when Trump was by the way, the morning Trump was indicted, he said, told CNN, and who's he talking to here? It was on CNN this morning. It was the morning it happened. He's on the mishandling of classified information. He said, this is a serious crime. It's a devastating indictment. It's the end of Donald Trump's career. That is what he said himself of this. You ever notice all of these people who were involved and engaged in these conspiracies against Trump to pull off whatever they try, and they failed. I mean, the lawfare failed spectacularly against Donald Trump. Letitia James, Big Fannie Willis, the Bolton, was basically running around. That's another. We'll see what happens. But I mean, basically selling himself to the highest bidder all over Eastern Europe.
He got $1 million
to buy or Cutter. Yeah. For what? For what? Who's going to read it?
Rich, go click the link that I sent you in the private chat. Go to paragraph 35. People need to see it because you won't be able to. You won't believe how stupid people can be. And maybe I was thinking like,
oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is beautiful.
If it's his wife, they wouldn't be able to, get testimony from.
That's. I was going to ask you that. Does that impact it at all? Because people
they can't force. I have to refresh my memory. They can't force a spouse to testify against a spouse.
Okay,
but this is documentary.
This is not in right. That's a different. That's a different thing than it being inadmissible because he's talking to his wife.
Yeah,
right.
No, I don't believe. I'm fairly certain. I just always leave the room open that I might be wrong. I don't think it's inadmissible because it's interspousal communications. I just don't think they can get the wife to testify against the husband if she refuses to. But I mean, it's you got to.
Going to read this? Let me read this.
Yeah,
Are you ready? Paragraph 35. On or about July 23rd, 2018, Bolton sent individuals 1 and 2 a message that stated, "More stuff coming!" 3 times. A few minutes later, Bolton sent individuals 1 and 2 a 24-page document which described information that Bolton learned while National Security Advisor. Less than 3 hours later, Bolton sent individuals 1 and 2 a follow-up message that stated, "None of which we talk about." Again, 3 exclamation marks.
He does that throughout the indictment. 3 exclamation.
Why? This guy is one of these guys, In response, individual 1 sent a message that stated, "Shh." Individual 2 then sent a message that stated, "The only interesting thing is what senior U.S. government official, obviously unnamed here, might have said from in a foreign language interpreter, which you didn't tell us." Approximately 2 minutes later, individual 1 sent a message in response that stated, "More to come with cloak and dagger," or something, so he says. So they know exactly what this is. So damning. They know exactly what they're doing.
No, I mean the only way indictments or allegations, the evidence hasn't been tested yet in a full defense, unless it's fake. I mean, or unless he's going to say,
right,
I obtained, declassification. It was declassified. I don't know what other defenses could be other than it was fake or it wasn't actually classified. We were mistaken in thinking it was secret information. But no, dead to rights.
So locals community is, they're just smart, and we were talking about the book and $1 million, right? And there are all these people with these book deals, and especially in that sphere of influence, right? And it's just so obvious money laundering, or at least an opportunity to money launder. These people nobody's reading these books. Nobody cares except for inside Washington, right? They seem like they're just opportunities because, as I understand it, and I'm surprised we didn't see much from this angle, but I was told again that he has been since whatever you want to call it, the in between Trump eras, all over the Middle East and in like very disreputable places, doing what, right? Like what is John Bolton doing in these areas, hanging out in Qatar and Bahrain, and right?
Yeah, I don't use the word treason often, and I'm not using it now primarily because people don't use it under proper circumstances and because people perceive it. Am I still in here?
Oh yeah. I just made you bigger.
Oh, this is me. Oh, I engaged.
Yeah, it's you just bigger. I made you bigger. Well, I turned off my ringer because somebody
the penalty for treason. The penalty for treason is death, and I don't want anyone thinking I'm making threats.
Yeah.
But Bolton is he's either a witting or an unwitting foreign agent, a spy for foreign adversarial nations. Period. And he might be selling these secrets, or he might just be that dumb that he's just providing them or allowing for fishing expeditions to hack his email accounts. And he was being extorted in this thing. I don't know what was the outcome of the extortion, but they were saying we hacked your stuff, and it would be a shame if this information sees the light of day. So,
but if you look at 39, if you look at paragraph 39, it may shed some light on that. I mean, I don't understand why. And it just for people, it read weird to me. This care about the arrests of another foreign agent overseas, like this concern over this. I don't know. There's a lot of things to fill in here. There's a lot of missing pieces that we don't really know. But yeah, I'll just pop this up real quick, but you're running close on your time. I want to watch your time. On or about December 4th, it's paragraph 39, I think. Yep. Individual 2 sent additional messages to Bolton and individual 1 regarding the arrest of an individual in foreign country 1. Individual 2 told Bolton and individual 1 that the arrested individual in foreign country 1 was being interrogated and that a relative of the arrested individual would, quote, be in DC if useful to get him in front of a senior U.S. government official or anyone else. Next thing, they'll pull a Khashoggi on him. And for those who don't know, what was his first name? Jamal Khashoggi. Yeah, he was this guy from a prominent family that everybody did know has some really dirty ties to gun running and spooks, but the Washington class loved him. He would once upon, here and there write opinion columns for Washington Post, and the Saudis killed him. So
in an embassy, dismembered him and then took him out in a valise.
There you go.
I recall.
Yep. So I mean, I don't know. It just strikes me as weird. It does give me the feel that his interests are less aligned, especially since given the date of these messages, guys. Think about the date of these. It's supposed to be an America First administration. This is supposed to be stepping back away from foreign entanglements. And here we have somebody who served as national security advisor, seeming like he's more concerned with the interest of other nations and individuals than his own. It's nauseating to read, but I'll give you the last word before you got to go.
Just comeuppance. This is a little bit of justice. I won't say Schadenfreude, but it's hilarious to watch these idiots get caught in their own, by their own rules, by their own crimes, and couldn't have happened to a better person.
Tell people what you got going on, because my show's over at 3. So tell people.
Live at 3 o'clock. I'm going to cover this, a bunch of other stuff. It's going to be fun, and it'll be live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com and Rumble and X. And I've got to, on an urgent basis, correct a flight that I'm going to Lugano next week with Rumble. And it seems that I may have been confused about the time zone when booking the flight. So,
no,
it's fine. There's more than enough time to fix it. But
I've done that.
Next week, that's going to be amazing. We're going to be down in Lugano. I'm going to get an interview with the Prince of Serbia and one of the OGs of Bitcoin. And that'll be cool. But today, 3 o'clock, I'm going to be live in 12 minutes.
Well, check it out. I'll be there myself, my friend. I'll go check it out. Everybody. Viva, the great, the one and only. Thanks, brother, for coming by. Such short notice. Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, go check it out in now 11 minutes. Okay. Yeah, and again, that was really short notice, and he popped on by. It was awesome. You know, I was going to say something I forgot, but that's okay. I'm just going to say it right now. I think we all need to stop and pause and take this observation that everybody who has engaged, and I'm not saying this to say Trump is a perfect person. That's not the point. So, like, it's always funny how these like Trump deranged people or these never Trumpers, of which there are fewer than ever. I mean, this is a dying breed. All right. And I mean that politically. Okay. They literally are a shrinking size of the nation. It's nowhere near what it was even back then. All of these people who have engaged in these conspiracies and these scams and these hoaxes and these gross abuses of power and their authority and the law, right? The rule of law. They're all crooked. They're all corrupt. Think about it. And some of them have been really bad. You have, as far back, you could go back to the Michael Avenattis, okay? Totally, deeply corrupt guy, which I knew he was corrupt from the moment he came out on the public stage, because Barnes and I had some knowledge of the guy from back in the day. He failed to pay a bunch of his employees. There was this whole gross thing. Like, he just was beating people. He was running this firm and then just not paying them. And he was just beating them. And these people were looking for relief. There was that. We can go back to Robert Mueller himself, right? Whom we now know had Parkinson's and was lost in the sauce, guys. He was not running the Mueller probe. Andrew Weissman was, which you'll get to in a second. But Robert Mueller was never a good guy. Robert Mueller was Jim Comey's protege. So think about that. I mean, Jim Comey is a crook. We'll get to him in a second. But Robert Mueller, even before he came on the national stage in a post 9/11 world, had been searching for years for a way for the FBI to get more involved with counterintelligence, foreign stuff, as opposed to being, you know, the FBI's traditional role as being like a federal domestic law enforcement agency. He had been wanting to get his claws into that his entire career. Then he finally, because he was, where's he come from? What's his background? This Mr. Marine, right? Oh, you know the breed, right? Then 9/11 comes and he uses all of your fear to grant powers to the FBI that they have never been able to have in the past, and power obviously they were not trustworthy enough to possess. But we should have known that, because Robert Mueller is a man who allowed two innocent men to rot in jail for, I mean, they would have died there if it wasn't rectified, to rot in jail for murders that they didn't commit, that Whitey Bulger committed, but that he didn't want to pin on Whitey Bulger. We all know who Whitey Bulger is. I assume I need no introduction to Whitey Bulger, because his own FBI agents were dirty. You just can't make this stuff up. It's like a novel. And then we get to he unsurprisingly picks number 2 to actually run the investigation. One, Andrew Weissman, who is infamous for the Arthur Anderson prosecution, which received an unprecedented and stunning unanimous rebuke by the Supreme Court for prosecutorial misconduct and hiding material stuff from the jury and what they needed to consider and not consider in order to reach their verdict. It is very rare for all sides on the Supreme Court to come together and destroy a federal prosecutor because he's that dirty. And that's Andrew Weissman. That's who he is. Unfortunately, by the time the case made it to that level, literally thousands of lives had been destroyed by that prosecution. And I'm not saying we're dealing with like a perfect company and nice. It doesn't matter, though. We're talking about the people, the families, the children, the wives, the dependents that were destroyed, and their lives were ruined and upturned and upended and overturned, all because of Andrew Weissman being a crook who felt he, as a prosecutor, can do whatever he wants to get the conviction that's going to advance his career. He's one of the dirtiest prosecutors in the modern history of our country. And yet he's given the authority to run the Mueller probe. I mean, that's even going that far back. When you look at the more modern time here, Letitia James, now look at this. And she's got her criminal cousin living in the house that she committed a fraud on. I mean, and what did she charge Donald Trump with? Something she claims is a fraud. It's projection. Meanwhile, what Donald Trump did, as Kevin Leary explained to people on CNN countless times during the indictment, is normal business for real estate moguls, and not just New York, anywhere. You give a valuation, you want a loan from a bank, you give a valuation, if it's collateral, whatever it is that you're trying to put up, Mar-a-Lago is worth X number of dollars. And then you have this disclosure agreement. Do not take our word for it. Do your own due diligence. And then the bank will do that due diligence, and they will go and they will figure out their own valuation. And then you come to an agreement on what the terms of the loan is going to be and the amount of the loan is. They did. Donald Trump paid it back. He didn't miss a single payment. Mar-a-Lago is still his, free and clear. There was nothing wrong there. She charged Donald Trump with a version of the crime that she's been committing the entire time. And my point is, why should we all be surprised? If you're going to abuse the law and twist the law, right, then it's probably likely that you're a crook yourself, that you're corrupt yourself. And that is what it turned out to be every step of the way. Jack Smith, perfect. Mr. Hague, we just mentioned before, old governor from Virginia, Bob McDonnell, also prosecuted for some bribery, trumped up bribery charge, which he was later released from prison because of the unanimous decision by the Supreme Court. Guess who? I mean, it just, again, it's like they're all just playing musical chairs. They're the dirty ones. But I guess if you're going to do something like that, if you're going to abuse the law, if you're going to break the law, if you're going to cross a Rubicon, you're going to cross a Rubicon, you're going to do something so dangerous to the country, and you don't care how much damage you could be doing to the integrity of our way of life and our system of government, you have to be a crook. So why are we surprised that they went out and found people of that character, low character, to wage these prosecutions against Donald Trump? They're all turning out to be dirty themselves. Shocker. And John Bolton was completely complicit in the second impeachment effort. Completely. Not at all surprised. I will tell you a little thing, though, because it's 2:56 and I don't want to run over on Viva. I just want to play one more clip and talk about how Republicans need to learn how to adopt this tenure, this tone and tenor. I just want to say this. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm getting it. I want to tell you this little tidbit. When Michael Flynn was railroaded, it became very clear to people like me and others around me and others around Trump and etc. that John Bolton, I just said Michael, thanks Dave, that John Bolton wanted that job. He didn't get it right away, as we all know. But he goes off and people around him go off on this campaign to convince people that they know Trump listens to or watches what they do, values their take, will look at their analysis. He goes off, and I know because I received these calls too, that wanted you to believe that Bolton was, in the post-Iraq War era, a reformed neocon, that he no longer even was a neocon, that the failure of foreign policy in the Bush and Obama years, coupled with the election of Donald Trump, had made him see the light, and that he's no neocon anymore. In fact, we even did a story on PPD about it because the calls were coming from every angle. There were donors we speak to on, a somewhat consistent basis. There were, just people, and I wouldn't even say friends. Some were friends, but not all friends, acquaintances, people that you meet in the business, right? And they were all coming at influencers from every angle to get this guy appointed by Donald Trump, or at least so you wouldn't resist it when it happened. And I'm telling you guys, John Bolton did not have that kind of influence. He didn't have that sway. He wouldn't have even, if he was lobbying to get that job, he wouldn't even know who the hell needs to be called. And it got me back then because I thought, who's doing this? Who's doing this? Who is involved in this? How many people know this? Right? Made me super suspicious. All right, let's play Mayaris's last the last clip I have of him. It was not his closing, but let me play this, and I want all Republicans to pay very close attention to how he delivers this.
The incident involving Mr. Jones, how would you define the line between protected, albeit inappropriate, political speech and a communication that is legally prohibited? And you can address Mr. Jones's position as well. You have 90 seconds.
The reality is that Jay Jones was in court for going 116 miles an hour on Interstate 64. 4 people were in court that day, were going roughly the same speed. 3 of those 4 people got suspended or active jail sentence. But Jay Jones is a politician, and he asked the court not to give him any of that, to give him community service.
And I just want to say, what is he touching on right there? The theme he's touching on right there: injustice and inequality under the law, in the eyes of the law, between us and them. Us and them. Not white versus black, not right versus left. Us versus them. The rest of us over here and the ruling class who thinks they're better than us. That is the theme he is hitting on, and he did it beautifully.
And instead, we now know he misled the court. That community service, it wasn't done for a charity. It was done for his own political action committee that he controlled.
Targeting virtue signalers. He lined them up like bowling pins, guys, and just started laying them down. Next.
And the reality, Jay, is that your text messages that advocated for violence against innocent children, Jay, if you were to apply to be a line prosecutor in not just my office, any attorney general office in the country, you would not pass a background check.
Decency coupled with qualifications. This is, it's a master class. This was a master class.
And right now, you may say that you are sorry, but look back at what happened. You had 3 years to say you're sorry, Jay, and you didn't. 3 years to actually recognize what you did was horrific.
Authenticity. I mean, this is brilliant.
You chose to stay silent. Carrie Cornier called you out then. You doubled down. It was after she called you out for these text messages that is when you said you advocated for violence against children.
Trustworthiness.
And when this became public, we now know your first statement wasn't saying I'm sorry. The words I'm sorry wasn't even in your statement. It was to say we all send text messages we regret. You attacked the president and you attacked me. It wasn't until 12 hours after you were first notified that you then decided to say, I'm sorry. Because at the end of the day, Jay, you're a politician, not a prosecutor, and you certainly can't be the top prosecutor in the state of Virginia.
Oh, Lordy. Mic drop. What else you got to do? He did it without crass, couth, but he did do it with assertiveness, and a surgical assertiveness. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And by the way, without adding the but that always comes from spineless Republicans, the but, and then that but is followed by some moral cowardice and like faux moral equivalency. No, none of that. None of it. Did he let them get in the Politico article? No, which I won't even cite anymore because it's a distraction. This was a master class, and all Republicans should take notice. I can't imagine this guy is not rewarded for not only how he handled this, but how his opponent failed to rebut it. There's only one path here for Jay Jones. As Dave said, actually, as Viva said, he should get out of this race. I'm not even sure there's enough time at this point. I think he may have passed. He's going to be on the ballot regardless. This was just perfect. I really, I have no criticism to add to Mayars, and I don't say that often at all. I always myself have a but. Like, this is great, but you could have done this. That was amazing, but you could have done that. Not here. No, that's it. It's an A plus. It's an A plus. Yeah, very, very well done. All right. I'm going to leave. Go catch Viva. All right. Don't forget, the links to the public polling project are below. Share them far and wide. And if you like the video, share them far and wide, right? You know the drill, guys. We will be back with, I don't want to say the time yet. I know I have some stuff that I have to do with my family this Sunday, but if I can and I get back in time, I may try to sneak in like a prelude to the book club. All right. But I don't want to go ahead and say that if I can't 100%, but I did promise my family some Halloween stuff we're going to go do, and I got to do it while my kids I don't have the time. Right. Because it's just so busy themselves. We're all so busy. It's getting harder and harder as they get older and become their own individuals. It's getting harder and harder to make those schedules work, and you got to, when you can, you have to. All right. Again, I don't think I'm missing anything here. Check out Monday night, Beyond Quite Frankly. I think we'll be on Bannon probably Monday morning if I can get this workload done. All right, but I'm going to shut up so I don't step on any more of Viva's time, because I myself want to go work and listen to him and go pick up my kid and listen to his show. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, this is Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, People's Pundit. I'll see you soon. Deuces! And thank you, Viva, for last minute appearance. Go watch Viva. I'm gonna.